Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I know I haven't posted a video in a while, and quite honestly, there's a couple reasons for that. The biggest one probably is a little bit of a shallow reason, and that's I don't wear makeup a lot. And I feel like if I don't wear makeup, I can't be filming a YouTube video. Like, sometimes I'll still go on TikTok and make TikToks because I can have filters, but I can't really do that on YouTube. So I feel like people aren't as inclined to watch videos of people who like don't look all nicely put together. And also, my second reason is because I am in grad school. I'm in grad school full-time, I'm working full-time, and I have had a lot of homework. And I actually read 7 books in the month of May, the ones that you saw in the thumbnail, which is a lot more than I thought. I mean, it's about half of what I was doing in previous months before I had so much homework. Like, even there were months where I was in grad school, but I didn't have as much homework. It's just the courses that I was taking and the courses that I'm taking now. But I mean, 7 is still a fantastic number. That's besides the reading that I had to do for school. And I mean, any books is good, but it's just that like I didn't think I was reading that many books. And then when I went back through and counted, I was like, oh, I did read quite a few in May. At least, like, I'm pretty sure I read all these in May. They're on my Goodreads, so I will link that if you're interested to just check out what I'm reading, keep up with me, and we'll just get started. And I hopefully am going to try to make videos. I had a lot of pressure on myself to make, like, multiple videos per week. I'm going to try to do maybe, like, 1 a week for a while, and then we will maybe go from there. Who knows? So these are not in order I read it. They're actually not in any type of order at all. I don't know if that's good or bad. Like, maybe in the future I should do like a favorite to least favorite, or one that I read the first to last. I don't know. But here we are. So We Are Not Free by Tracy, is it Chi? I'm not positive. So this is a historical fiction about the Japanese internment camps, aka honestly, like, they really were prisons. And in the United States, after World War II, basically a lot of Japanese people were rounded up, especially like in California. They were rounded up and then put into essentially like labor camps. And this is something that I feel like we don't learn a lot, at least I didn't learn a lot about in school. I very distinctly remember in 6th grade writing a paper about the Chinese Exclusion Act and the Japanese internment camps, but it was literally an English class. So we must have read a book that had to do with that topic, and then we had to write an essay on it. I don't recall learning about this in history class, and I think that this is it's a very important topic. In my experience in school is that it's a topic that gets erased a lot from our history classes. This author, this like happened to her grandparents, so I believe I don't know if she like talked to them. I think she like talked to them about it, and that's where she got a lot of her information for the book. And the characters are so good that it's honestly, this, you know what, this might have been my favorite book. I wrote on Instagram that it was something else, but now that I'm thinking about it, I think it was probably this one. It's also like a young adult book, so it's not very difficult to read in terms of like language. Now, in terms of context, yes, like it is a very heavy topic, but I think that this is literally so important to read. I can't recommend this enough. I will recommend this to so many people. Next we have, I'm like dropping all kinds of stuff over here. Okay, next we have Finlay Donovan Is Killing It. This I wrote on my Instagram was my favorite, so this, I mean, it was very good. I really did enjoy it a lot, but I think, I don't know. Anyway, so this is about a woman who is divorced, and she like doesn't have any money left at all, and she relies on her ex-husband to pay a lot of stuff. She's divorced, she has a child, she has the child most of the time, and she's also an author. And so she is supposed to be writing a book, and she just like has no motivation. She can't think of any topic, and even at that, the advance that she got for her book wasn't, wasn't very much. It was like a couple $1,000s. And so she's in a Panera Bread restaurant, and she's talking to her agent about all of these issues, and then she starts talking about like a murder mystery book, and someone overhears her talking to her agent, her publisher or whatever, and thinks that she is actually a murder for hire woman. And so this stranger passes Finlay Donovan a note that's basically is like, hey, I want you to like off my husband, or whoever, I think it was her husband. I want you to off my husband. He's like a bad guy. And Finlay realizes like, oh my goodness, like this woman overheard me. She thinks that I do this, but she was just talking about a story that she was writing. And she gets offered $50,000 to do this murder for hire. I don't even know if I can say that on YouTube. Anyway, and she's like, wow, I could really use the money. So it's her story of what happens next, and it's really good. It's really, for a topic that like sounds kind of heavy, it's really lighthearted and kind of fun, and so I would recommend this. I totally plan on reading her next book, like the sequel to this. I forgot what it's called. It's Finlay Donovan is Killing It, and then Finlay Donovan Knocks Him Dead, I think. So I totally look forward to that. This book is Tokyo Ever After. This is a young adult book, and it was actually a Reese's. I said it like the candy. I say like the candy, like Reese's. No, not Reese's. Reese's young adult book club pick at some point. I don't know what month or what year it was. But it is about a Japanese American girl whose mom is Japanese, I believe, and her father was Japanese, but she doesn't know who her father is. Eventually she finds out that her father is the crown prince of Japan, by like going through some of her mom's things. And so there's kind of like a little bit of a Princess Diaries element to this, and she goes to Japan and like reconnects with her culture. And I mean, it's a young adult book. It's pretty lighthearted, but it's really cute, and at the same time it really does explore the issue of like multiple identities, of being, you know, an Asian American and not really feeling connected to either of your identities, not really feeling connected to as an American, because people always think that you're like too Asian looking. I'm not speaking from experience, but these are things I've learned through reading books like these, even like fiction young adult books. The authors really are able to put a lot of experience behind the words. Anyway, and then, you know, going to Japan and feeling very American and feeling too American for Japan. So I think that the identity issue is something, actually that's something like I'm studying in grad school right now too. So, and I actually brought this book up in a discussion. I also brought up the book Crying in H Mart, which I did read. I don't think I ever included that on a video because it was months ago when I wasn't really making videos. Anyway, yeah, so I would say it's kind of similar to that, except it's fictionalized and it's a young adult fiction. Alright, we have Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. To be completely honest, I literally only read this because it's set at Yale University in Connecticut, and I live in Connecticut. So I've been reading more fantasy. I didn't used to read very much fantasy at all, but I've been reading a lot more fantasy lately, and I have been getting into it a little bit more. However, the kind of fantasies that I'm more interested in are like not as heavy fantasy, like not the entire plot, like the entire story based around this fantasy, I guess. I don't really know how to say it, but as far as I'm concerned, there's like a high fantasy and then like a low fantasy. Generally, not there, of course there's exceptions. Generally, I'm not as big of a fan as like a high fantasy. So I kind of put this in the category with like A Deadly Education, which is just like so much fantasy. I think that book was probably like even more fantasy than this. Anyway, all that to say, it took me a very long time to read this. I think that the book was good, and if you like high fantasy, you would love it. It just really wasn't for me. And I wouldn't have read it except for it being set in Connecticut, and I just wanted to give it a read. Now, as far as fantasy that I do like, actually, I probably should like make an entire video on like fantasy books for non-fantasy lovers or something. So if that's something you're interested in, let me know. But basically, this is about a girl who was like total wrong side of the tracks. Like I think she might have even dropped out of high school, and then she gets this offer to join this secret society at Yale University and be admitted to Yale University and go there. And she's like, okay. And basically the reason they give her that offer is because she has like this special power, special talent that is needed for this secret society, could be really useful to them. And so that is basically the whole premise to the story. All right, we have here Pretty Guilty Woman. I got this at like a discount store, and I don't know why. There's obviously like something maybe a little bit wrong with it. It's one of those stores that like gets stuff from regular stores that like they can't sell because of imperfections or whatever, you know what I mean? Okay, there's a globe behind me, and I feel like it keeps making like a bump on my head. So I'll have to like sit in a slightly different spot next time I film, like even if I'm just I don't know. Anyway, that's what that is. It's not a bump on my head. So Pretty Guilty Woman, it's kind of there's a lot to it. It was okay in my opinion. I think it had a lot of similarities to The Guest List by Lucy Foley. So if you read that, this is very similar. I literally actually gave them both 3 stars out of 5. So this is about some college friends, college roommates who hadn't all talked in several years, and one of like the woman who is marrying into a very rich family is having this very fancy wedding, and so invites all of her old college roommates even though like they hadn't talked in years. So they are all there, and somebody was murdered at the wedding. That's not a spoiler, you find it out like literally immediately. And so someone was murdered, and it's basically going through the book, and there's like a cop interviewing each woman about what they saw, and all of the women confess, including a friend that they made, like an older woman who they met, who was sitting at a bar. Everyone confesses. So it's basically the cop trying to figure out what happened, and the whole thing isn't a cop interviewing. There will just be like a page or 2 of a cop interviewing somebody, and then like a bunch of chapters talking about, you know, what was going on and what happened. And like here's one section where a cop is interviewing. It's just like that little part down there and this up here. And then chapters and chapters of the story, and then they'll do that again. Anyway, like it was okay. Luckiest Girl Alive. So this I had gotten at a library book sale for like $1 or $2 or something, and quite honestly, like I'm really glad that's all I spent on it. I didn't like this book. However, maybe I'm in the minority on this because literally this book has so many reviews and it has sold so many copies that like maybe a lot of people like it. I will say like the average on Goodreads is like a 3 point something, like a 3.5, and I gave it 2 stars. So I don't know, maybe I liked it a little bit less than most people. So whoa, I accidentally knocked my desk. So there are a lot of triggers. If you choose to read this, definitely look up the triggers. I just disagree that this is like written like Gillian Flynn. There is just a lot of fluff. The character was really shallow and self-obsessed, and there is like a whole ton of like unnecessary like diet talk and talking about like not I don't even want to say it. Like could be triggering for EDs, and I don't even really know that I have that much else to say about it. But basically it's this girl who has everything, you know, rich husband, job, big ring, etc., which is how this book and this character and this author defines having everything. Like that's, you know what I mean. So that's just how it's defined here, is that she has everything in that sense. But she has like something bad that happened in her past, and the book kind of leads up to that, and then they do a documentary about what happened in her past. I don't really know if I'm doing this justice, but at the same time it wasn't my favorite. So anyway, nothing is true and everything is possible. So this is about Russia, the surreal heart of the new Russia. So this is written by a journalist who lived in Russia for a few years, and also his wife is Russian, so like his daughter is also half Russian, and no, I think he was probably also part Russian. His last name's pretty Russian. Anyway, he was living in the UK, and then he's a journalist, so he was doing work in Russia. He was making some documentaries, and he just talks about like the people he met and their stories and why they believe some things that they believe. And it was well written. I tend to like books that are written by journalists because they tell stories. Of course, they only tell the story of a couple people, but he told the stories of documentaries that he made, what kinds of things like sell on Russian TV, what kinds of things that the producers look for on Russian TV, and then the stories of some of like the models, some of the really rich people. There was a story about a model who had unalived herself, and I think like maybe a couple models did, and there's this like, not training camp, but like these classes that they have to go to, and how it messes with your mind. That part was really interesting. But I will say, as far as books about Russia written by journalists, I liked this one better, which was one that I read in like a different month, called Putin Country, A Journey into the Real Russia. I would recommend this. I am actually quite literally taking a grad class about Russia and Putin, so I'm also doing a lot of reading on the topic in general, but these two I actually read like not for class, just for like my own reading, my own enhancement or whatever. So this was very interesting. And then other ones that I've read, well, this is the conflict in Ukraine. So this is it's not about the current conflict, obviously, but it's about like, because stuff has been going on there between Russia and Ukraine. And then this, Ukraine and Russia, from civilized divorce to uncivil war. I have like all kinds of notes in this. I didn't read it for school per se, but it definitely helped me with a project that I was doing. This is like literally so informative, dense though. If nonfiction is your thing. I do tend to read some nonfiction, so you'll see some of that on this channel. But anyway, those were the books that I read for the month of May. I hope to make more videos soon. Please let me know if you've read any of these books, if you like any of these books based on, you know, the kinds of things that I read. Please give me some recommendations, and I would love to hear from you.